Oh my God, it's Oscars season. What does that have to do with period pain? Usually nothing. Like, truly nothing. That Venn diagram is usually 2 circles. But this year, because I live in LA and I'm friends with some people who do that thing where they watch all the Oscar-nominated movies before the awards, this year I went to a screening of all the Oscar-nominated short films. One of those films was called Jane Austen's Period Drama, a 13-minute live-action satire of a Jane Austen piece, like, Pride and Prejudice. And the main character, along with trying to get a proposal out of her suitor, she's also trying to educate him about menstruation in an anatomically accurate and detailed way, including period diarrhea. Obviously, I loved it. I have to think I am on the extreme end of their target audience. But the whole time I was watching it, I kept thinking, why does it make me feel like I forgot to do something? Oh yeah, I interviewed 2 indie artists making really cool work about period pain back in the fall, and I never released the episode. That's on me. So, who's out there making cramper representation that isn't nominated for an Oscar, this year at least? What are they writing and filming? Should you read it and watch it, even though it's not executive produced by Emma Thompson? Yes, you should.
What's happening to your body, we don't know, because we've never really studied the female body. Say it's all in my head, but the research is quite spotty. No, we've never really studied the female body. I go to the doctor to get dismissed. Try losing weight, you're just anxious. That's fine, that's cool, I'm not pissed. Just wait 10 years for a diagnosis. Psychosomatic, you're so dramatic. Hysterical, emotional, hormonal, erratic. Heart disease, chronic fatigue, depression and anxiety. Do you have pain? No, you don't, because we've never really studied the female body.
Welcome back to Cramps, the podcast where I try to find answers to my and other people's questions about their period pain. I'm your host, Kate Helen Downey. If you just found this podcast, you might want to go back to the beginning of season 1. And if you're just here for media stuff, just listen to episode 9 of season 1, which is all about why it's so hard to find cramper representation in media. If you would like to support this podcast, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/cramped. You can go join at the free level and still get full bonus episodes, access to the Discord community. This week on the Discord, we've all been trying to find a low FODMAP bread cookbook in Swedish for one of our crampers. I love it on there. You can join the Patreon at the free level and get access to all of that. Because if you need this information and community, I don't care if you have $5. If you do have $5 or $10 or $25, please consider monetarily supporting this work. It makes a huge difference. You are literally paying my paycheck to do this work when you sign up for a paid tier on the Patreon. And honestly, I'd love to see what I can do if I quit my 3 other jobs and do this full time. Okay, today we are getting into cramper representation on the screen and on the page. So we loved a period drama, cramper representation at the Oscars with anatomically correct language, plus a very funny chicken cameo. And listen, Emma Thompson can executive produce anything she wants. Do you want to be our executive producer, Emma Thompson? No, seriously, do you? We'd love that. Jane Austen's period drama is on YouTube. Go watch it. It's 13 minutes long. If you're listening to this, you will probably love it as much as I did. There's one moment that I really loved from the film that I want to highlight because it's not getting that much attention. The main character, Estrogenia, wants to correct and inform her suitor, Mr. Dickley, when she realizes that he doesn't know anything about periods. Her sister insists that it would be much preferable if she let her stab her with a pitchfork in the leg instead of admitting to Mr. Dickley that it's her period. This is obviously very silly and exaggerated, but it's also an acknowledgement that it's often women upholding the stigma and the taboo around talking openly about our periods. It's often women saying, ooh, it would be better for you if you didn't talk about that publicly. I just really love that nuance in a very silly, very outrageous piece. Okay, so now I want to share with you 2 independent artists who are not upholding that taboo around talking openly about periods. They are turning their experience with severe period pain into incredible works of art that are also very worthy of your time and attention. First up, author Grace Daly. I loved it. I started reading Scald Crow while I was like on vacation with my family, and I was like, I'll skim through this. I'll see how it is. I was like in.
Thank you.
Within a few pages, I was just like, oh, I'm just like reading a book for fun now.
Oh, thank
and
you.
It's really
that was
cool.
that was very much my goal. I kind of joke sometimes that I'm trying to trick people into being disability rights advocates. I'm trying to write books that are fun and that are good, separate from having disability representation. A pill pocket with a dog.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so I'm just going to have you introduce yourself.
My name's Grace Daly. I am a horror, sci-fi, and fantasy writer from Chicagoland, and my debut novel, The Scald Crow, is a horror comedy about chronic pain, invisible disability, medical trauma, childhood trauma, a really evil bird, a really cute cat, and it's funny. I promise you'll have a good time.
And I can back that up. I read it and it was so fun to read. It was such a like thrilling adventure and also has all this representation of period pain.
Yeah, period pain is super central to the story. It is hugely why I wrote the book, my own experiences with chronic pain, as well as other people I know, other women and AFAB folks I know who have had experiences with period pain and being dismissed by doctors, hugely influenced every single page of the story.
Can you talk a little bit more about what it's about? I know that's the worst question for an author to get.
That's okay. Yeah. So The Scald Crow is very much a book I wrote because it's the book I wanted to read and was having trouble finding. I am invisibly disabled not only by endo and adenomyosis, but also through Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, mast cell activation syndrome, and postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which I know you folks have talked about on the Cramps podcast a lot before, that these are common comorbidities. When I first really started struggling with all this chronic pain and it really became truly disabling, I was desperate to find representations that I could relate to in fiction. And I just really couldn't find anything. When there were disabled characters, it was often very reductive, or they were like inspiration porn for able-bodied people, or they were these horrible monsters where the disability was a sign of their internal moral failings, or all your kind of classic disability stereotypes. And I was finding very little that I could actually relate to. And so at a certain point I went, fuck it. Like, I'll just write it.
Yeah.
And so The Scald Crow came from that. But there are a lot of things in The Scald Crow. It's about a woman who's suffering through this chronic pain. Her mother, who was abusive to her in her childhood, has recently disappeared. So she moves back into her childhood home because it's free and she can't afford her apartment. She's disabled. So she moves back into this childhood home. She's having all this chronic pain, and immediately weird stuff starts happening. This nightmare that she had like recurs, where her mother is telling her that she's not her real mother. She killed her mother and put her in the closet. So that recurrent nightmare pops up. This weird crow, the Scald Crow, which is the title of the book, starts following her everywhere and just generally acting very creepy and very strange. This portrait of Jesus keeps moving around by itself, but she can't actually really prove that any of this is happening. Maybe she just forgot where she put the painting. Maybe the bird is just a regular bird and she's just obsessed with this bird. Maybe the nightmare is just a nightmare, and all of this is bolstered by the fact that she's been having this chronic, incredible period pain, and all of her doctors tell her she's fine. All of her doctors give her that. All your labs are normal. You look normal. You're healthy. It's all in your head. It's just stress, brush off excuse that is so familiar to so many women and AFAB folks who suffer from reproductive health problems.
This was one of my favorite things about the book, is that when you think of like period pain being turned into entertainment or horror or something, like being a theme, you think body horror, right? Which is like always present, lots of blood, like all this tissue coming out of you. That kind of horror is there. But I loved that the book really focuses on this like medical gaslighting and abandonment and isolation, the not just physical but mental and emotional trauma that you second guess yourself, that lines up so well with the horror genre. So much of it, especially like supernatural horror, is, wait, I thought I just saw that. Did I actually see that? Am I going crazy? Can I trust my senses? Can I trust my own like perception of what's happening and interpretation of reality? And I feel like that lines up so well with the decades that so many of us go through trying to get this pain validated, treated, just acknowledged.
That was very important to me. It really felt like the whole core of the book for me. It's the main theme for me as the writer. I started getting my period when I was 11, and it was bad right out the gate.
I was going to ask like the specifics of your experience, because I feel like I know just from reading the book, but like I want to ask you what your actual experience is with this period pain.
Yeah, so my actual experiences are actually even more... Briege is the main character in the book. I don't think I've mentioned her name yet. My experiences are actually even more complicated and, in my opinion, gaslighty than even Briege's are. So Briege in the book really only has 2 of my 5 diagnoses. She's got endo and adeno, which that's a little bit of a spoiler, but whatever. I'm on the podcast Cramps. I think the listeners can infer.
We got it. From the first sentence, you're like, babe, you got endo.
Yeah, exactly. So she has fewer diagnoses than I do, and my other diagnoses, my EDS, my M-CAS, my POTS, really complicated the appearance of my symptoms. But as far as my issues specifically with my reproductive system go, I got my first period when I was 11, and it lasted over 30 days. When I was 11 years old. I was raised in this very Catholic family, and I didn't know how abnormal that was, and I wasn't really comfortable like saying anything to anyone, and so I just assumed, I guess periods last 30 plus days, and it was intensely painful. And as I got older and older, it kept getting more and more painful. When I was 17, I had my first ovarian cyst rupture, and that happened pretty regularly ever since, and the pain was so intensely agonizing that I struggle to describe it. In the book, when Briege is experiencing her very intense pain, I actually purposefully lose proper prose. She no longer thinks in complete sentences or even complete words at times. And that's very much how it felt. It was this disassembling of myself into just a pile of meat that screamed and cried. And when I would have my cramps, which I know you've talked about on the podcast, how that's such a small word for such a big thing. When I would have my cramps or my ovarian cysts burst, I remember people would ask me, to rate my pain on a scale of 1 to 10 if I was at the ER or whatever. And I would always say 9. Because in my head, I would think to myself that if this was a 10, like, I would be dead. Like, the only thing more than this is death. And I would hope for death a little bit. Because when it was happening, it didn't feel temporary. When it was happening, it felt like my entire being had just collapsed into this one moment of true suffering. And it's completely rewired my brain and my perception of my existence, just that level of pain. And then I would have to go to school or work the next day.
It's crazy making. In a very literal way. It is, just do things? Just do things? When I touch death? Like when my entire body was like twisted up like a towel? Okay,
yeah. And so for a long time, I had this conviction that I was just weak. And that I was just pitiful, and that, again, raised very Catholic, somehow this was my job, and this was my responsibility to just...
And you deserved it.
And I deserved it. Yeah, it was my cross, and that is bonkers. That is batshit to reach that conclusion. But I went to a hilarious number of doctors.
Yeah.
And everyone just would shrug and be like, great news. Your hormone levels are normal. You're,
There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah. And like, even when I had small scraps of proof, like the ovarian cysts, those you could see on an ultrasound. Even when I had those small scraps of proof, they'd be like, oh, sucks to suck.
Other than put you on birth control, like there's not a lot of options.
And that was a problem for me too, is with my EDS and my M-CAS and my POTS, I seem to have some sort of weird, crazy sensitivity to birth control. I tried so many, I think 8 or 9 different pills. I did IUDs, I did the patches, I did the rings. I did almost every birth control you can try because every single gynecologist just wanted to throw birth control at me. And birth control only ever made me sicker. It only ever made me worse because it would throw my EDS and my mast cell symptoms into huge, crazy loops, which would raise my inflammation, which, as you've covered on the podcast, just makes endo and adeno worse.
I have to do an episode on EDS and POTS because they are, and M-CAS, because they are so often part of this like constellation of conditions that people with severe period pain or pelvic pain have. And there, right now, we don't know what the connection is. And I do think that I have like mild symptoms of, and since my surgery, I found out like my endo is actually super mild. It just created the conditions for this hydrosalpinx that was actually like the evil thing causing all of this pain.
Gotcha.
But I think similarly to you, I had horrible experiences with every kind of hormonal birth control I was put on, and they did not help my symptoms and often added new crazy symptoms to the mix or made my existing ones worse in unexpected fun ways. And so I do think that is a really common thing, and we are just not looking at this as a whole, and gynecologists are just trying to stick us on these birth controls to deal with one side of the symptoms and not legitimizing the effects.
And another thing that was very crazy making is that I would go on these birth controls and I would get these crazy side effects, which I now understand are from my other health conditions. And I would go back to whichever gynecologist had prescribed the birth control and I would go, this are happening because of the birth control. And they would just shrug and they go, birth control doesn't do that. It's something else. And they just straight up wouldn't believe me.
They just deny your reality.
Yeah, just so casually and so confidently. And, you know, at the time, I'm like 21 and I'm like...
That's such a powerful part of the book as well is that, and I think there's a lot of us out there with these symptoms and these experiences, we have been told our whole lives, if you do it correctly, whatever it is, if you go to the doctor correctly, if you ask the right questions, if you behave well, if you eat right and exercise, if you do all this stuff, then you won't have any problems. Or whatever problems you have will be fixable. And like, we have people for that. And then you'd be a straight A student. You do all the things you're supposed to do in the correct order. You sacrifice all the things you need to sacrifice. You stop drinking. You cut everything out of your diet. And then your doctor says, no, you're wrong about what you're experiencing. That isn't possible. Or no, you're normal. All your tests are normal. There's nothing we can do for you. And you're just like, wait, but I did it right. And I feel like Brige is doing that where she's like, I got a job. I like tried to overcome my pain. I couldn't work. I like don't have enough money to live. I'm backed into a corner in all these different ways, and that is horrifying, and it creates situations for horrible things to happen.
Yeah.
It's very relatable.
Yeah, something that I've been really moved by is I've been getting feedback from people. I keep getting women and AFAB folks messaging me who have had very similar experiences to Brige, and they message me and they're like, I have all these feelings of guilt, of shame, of this feelings of, I call it like wretchedness, you know?
Yeah. I love that word.
They'll message me and they'll be like, I have all these feelings of wretchedness, of shame, of trauma. And I just related to Briege so much, and she's so strong, she's so brave, and I wish I was like Briege. And I'm like, girl or non-binary friend, if you are relating to Briege, like, great news, you are so strong, you are so brave. And I made Briege up, she's not real. Take any love, any compassion, any gentleness you have for Briege and give it to yourself. It's for you.
I love that. And this fictional character hopefully creates the space for you to be able to think of yourself that way.
Yeah,
I love that.
Exactly.
Grace, where can people find The Scald Crow, and where can people find and follow you?
Yeah, so The Scald Crow is available wherever books are sold. On Barnes & Noble, on Amazon. Not my favorite, but it's there if you want it. If you go to any of your local independent bookstores, my actual favorite, you can request that they order it, or if I'm lucky, they might already have a copy. I'm Chicagoland local, so if you're in Chicagoland, a lot of the Chicagoland bookstores are going to carry it because I have been personally reaching out to them with my own
You've been hitting the pavement.
Rubby hands. And there is also for folks who like audiobooks or who struggle to focus without an audiobook to focus on, or who like to do things with their hands, there is going to be an audiobook to help raise accessibility, which I'm really excited about. So you can get an audiobook as well. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram at Grace Daly Author, all one word, and Daly is spelled D-A-L-Y. Not like the mayor for you Chicagoans. And I'm at Grace Daly Author on Instagram, at Grace Daly Author on Twitter X and Blue Sky, Grace Daly, author on Facebook, and my website is www.gracedailyauthor.com. It's a very consistent theme.
Oh my God, you're so findable.
I tried very hard.
Thank you so much, Grace. This was truly such an enjoyable book to read and so scary, so fun. I genuinely recommend it. We're going to take a quick ad break. We'll be right back.
'Cause we never really studied the female body.
Welcome back to Cramps. Today we're talking to independent artists who are making work inspired by their experience with severe period pain. Next up, we have a filmmaker who made a feature film, which is unfortunately not nominated for an Oscar, this year at least, but I think it is just as worthy of a watch as the period drama short. And I'll let her introduce herself.
My name is Brooke H. Cellars. I'm the writer-director of my first feature film called The Cramps, a period piece.
And what is your experience with period pain?
Basically, all my life, ever since I had my first period at 13, I always struggled with kind of an abnormal pain, especially in high school. I just remember my mother come and pick me up because I was just doubled over my desk, drooling, and nobody could figure out what's wrong with you. They're like, just, it's a normal period. You just can't handle the pain. Even my mother never took me to the doctor or a gynecologist growing up, so that was just like always a taboo kind of thing. Like, you never talk about that kind of stuff in front of my kind of family. In my 20s, it stopped me from going to college or having like a full-time job. I waited tables for 20 years and tried to go back and forth to college, but I just missed too many class, missed too many days of work. And as an adult, I finally brought myself to the doctor, but nobody could figure it out what was going on still until my mid-30s, when I was finally diagnosed with endometriosis, had my first laparoscopy surgery, and then lived with it for a few more years on birth control that she gave me. And then other birth controls and this and that. Finally, I went to another doctor when I was 40. They immediately said, I need a hysterectomy. And then I ended up having a hysterectomy and appendectomy at the same time because it had spread to my appendix as well.
And how has your pain been since then?
Wonderful. Like, just...
Oh, good.
No, it was completely life-changing. After my surgery, I went on hormones, on estrogen, and it was very weird for the next year after the hysterectomy because it was just a feeling of dread, because after the surgery, I felt like a different person in the weirdest way ever. And it kind of took me a year to get used to not only feeling different, but like also the estrogen, the hormones kind of like balancing out, because there was just some weird feelings and just things you would have to get used to. But like after, I guess, a couple years, that was 4 years ago. So I feel so much better. I feel so much better.
I hate that it took you so long to get to the point where you feel better, but I'm so glad you feel better.
Yes, finally. At least now. Better late than never.
Yeah. Can you ever remember seeing representation of what you were going through, like in a TV show, in a movie, in a book, anything like that?
Absolutely not. I think probably other horror fans can attest to this, like Carrie when she's having her period. That's kind of like how I felt when I had my period and I didn't know what was going on. I knew about periods, but nobody was ever there to tell me how to deal with it and live with a period or what to do when this happens or when you're in pain. It just kind of had to figure it out by myself because nobody talks about it. It's such a taboo subject and it should not be.
Yeah, there's so many of us out there struggling with the exact same thing. So at what point did you start going, okay, I'm going to make this thing that I wish had existed for me to see?
I had been making short films before that with my team, and I knew I always wanted to say something. I didn't make a short film till I was 37. Even though that was something I've always wanted to do, I never had the opportunity or confidence to do it, and, I was always in pain, so it was kind of like something I gave up. We made the decision, let's make a feature. I knew what I wanted to say because I was actually still going through it and I was still writing the script after my hysterectomy, like while I was healing. So I just knew that was something that was very important because I didn't want this to happen to anybody because it's just such a terrible thing to like such a life wasted. I always think about I could have been doing this like since I was young and I'm glad to do what I do now, but it took me so long and it shouldn't be like that and it shouldn't have happened that way and I don't want it to happen to somebody else. I don't want anybody to suffer in silence.
Yes, no more of that. If we have to suffer, we may as well be really loud about it.
Yes, together, let's suffer together.
Yeah. For the listeners, could you give a little summary of what this film is about?
So it's about this shy, naive young girl just getting out into the world. She comes from a very traditional, religious, kind of suppressive family. And she always knows what she wants to do, but at the same time, she's trying to make her family proud. But she wants to get out in the world, like she's trying to break free. And at the same time, she's going through these period situations, these very weird pains, like very harsh pains and very strange symptoms that even when she goes to the doctor, they don't seem to see it but her. Like it's this invisible creature that's taking over her life, basically, until they don't see it until it's too late.
I love it. I think of the very little media that's out there about period pain, most of it feels like, oh, it has to be about like somebody getting their period for the very first time, or it has to be like body horror, or it has to be like super realistic body horror. And I love that this film is so fun and so like aesthetic. There's like an element of camp to it. It's not that like dreary, ultra realistic aesthetic that I think a lot of people think, oh, if we're talking about like a serious issue like menstruation, we have to do it this way. I think it's so important to also have fun with it, even if you're talking about a really serious and important thing.
Yes, I agree. I see so many body horrors that are kind of like that, like dreary, very serious. It's like sad. And I guess I'm the kind of person to try to make light of things, even though you're suffering inside. I feel like it's more cathartic. You're laughing about it, even though like it really, really sucks.
Yeah, it doesn't make it suck less, but it makes it a little easier to get through it.
Right.
For sure.
I want people to feel better. It's kind of like a sweet horror movie.
How do you think your experience would have been different growing up with this pain if you had been able to see like movies like this, features just out in the world? If you just went to the movie theater one day and saw this fun new horror movie that was out and it was something like this, how would your experience have been different?
Oh gosh, as somebody who grew up with like movies all the time, like that's what I did all the time is watch movies, that would have been so inspiring and would have helped me so much because I always found hope in movies, or like what I wanted to do in movies, what inspired me, what helped me like teach me about life. So that would have changed my whole perspective and made me feel more comfortable and not alone, thinking something's wrong with me and I don't have something uncommon. It's just me I can't handle the pain or anything like that.
That feels like such a universal experience. Everyone I've talked to who has ended up having endometriosis but had decades of horrible period pain, debilitating period pain. It's such a refrain of like, oh, it's me. There's something wrong with me. I'm weak. I'm pathetic. Everybody else is handling this fine. And we've been gaslit so much. Because we go to the doctor and they go like, no, you're fine. You're normal. Everything's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And you're like, but I'm so sick. What's wrong with me? And that situation lends itself so well to horror. And I'm so glad that this is out there. Do you have a picture in your mind of the audience member that this is going to really connect with?
I feel like it's going to resonate with a lot of different kind of people, because regardless of if they even like horror or comedy, or I think everybody with a uterus like has something, they have some kind of pain, regardless if it's endometriosis or fibroids or anything like that. They're all going through it. So like I feel like so many different people can appreciate this on some kind of level for their own, like how they connect with it, even if it's through the characters or the story or whatever. I think that if you have a uterus, something about this movie is gonna like speak to you, I feel.
Making a feature of any kind, there's always obstacles. Did you run into any obstacles making this feature that were because it was about period pain?
I don't think so. Like, I think our crew, for the most part, they knew what the subject was. They knew what they were getting into. And everybody, even if they were male or female, they were all so supportive. I definitely chose the right people on our team, and they were amazing. So I don't think we did have any obstacles with that. I think the only thing was with casting, we made sure to let people know the subject if they wanted to audition, and some of them declined, and that was fine. No big deal.
I think, when you can make a project from the beginning knowing like this is what it's about and this is how I want to do it, you can avoid some of the pitfalls, I think.
Absolutely. I really, truly love the way that we made the movie, because our team is very scrappy. There's a lot of people that told us not to do certain things, especially shoot on film. There were so many producers that just said, no, don't do it. And we were like, we're going to do it. Just like we got told no a lot, and we got told we couldn't do it because we didn't have a big enough budget and all these things. We just chose not to listen because like we knew we were going to do something, and this was something that we had to do. So like I love my team for that.
I love a scrappy group of people getting stuff done. It's the only way anything happens.
Couldn't agree more.
Where can people go to watch this?
It just screened at Fantastic Fest, but it's going to be screening at Nightmares Film Festival in Ohio. It's going to be playing at FilmQuest in Provo, Utah.
Are there any plans to have it more widely available?
We're going to try to have a year of a festival run, and then after that, we definitely want it to be streaming and on physical media.
Can people watch a trailer for this anywhere?
Oh, yes. It's on Bloody Disgusting. They premiered our trailer on there. It's on the Fantastic Fest website, and then it's going to be on the FilmQuest website.
Awesome. And I will put the link in the show notes. Thank you so much, Brooke, and best of luck with the festival circuit. We're rooting for you.
Thank you so much.
You can actually watch this trailer on YouTube now. Just search The Cramps, a period piece. And an amazing thing I just saw, it has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Congratulations, Brooke. So go watch, go read these 3 amazing pieces of Cramper representation. Go be seen. Tell other people about them. Support these artists who are making stuff that you want to see and read. Have you seen or read a great period piece lately? Tag me on Instagram at Kate Helen Downey, email it to me at crampedpodcast@gmail.com, or go ahead and drop it in the Cramped Discord, which you can join by joining the Patreon at any level. We even have a dedicated channel in the Discord where we talk about pieces of media that we have seen or read that we love. That's it for Cramped this week. See you next time.
What's happening to your body? We don't know, because we've never really studied the female body.